So this is my first go. I don't know where to look. I want to look at myself, but when I look at myself, it really... Okay, I've never done one of these before. So this is my first time. Shit. Low battery. I'm going to start with my name. My name is Zoie Moore. Some people know me as Zoe Nicola Moore. Some people know me as Zoe Nicola Javette Moore. But at the moment we're just going to stick with Zoe Moore. I am currently 20 years of age. I had my birthday a week ago? 27th of March, so yeah, around a week ago. And I live in Sydney, Australia. I have a brother and a sister. They are 15 and they're twins. And I live with my mum and my dad still. And I have a dog. His name is Alfred Bean. You'll probably get to meet him further along. But yeah, and he has a very special episode that's coming that's dedicated just to him. So you'll just have to subscribe to my channel to continue watching these episodes. So I'm going to get into the part one of a bit about me. So in 2016, December the 29th, 2016, actually no, before that, even before that, in 2016 though, where was I? I was in year 11. So in 2016, I was in year 11, and at the end of year 11, so term 4 of year 11 in Australia, well in Sydney anyway, is term 1 of year 12. So that's where I was currently. Let's just picture me, long hair, in year 12, term 1 of year 12. The first time, it didn't click, but I got hit in the eye, and I came out with this big black bruise. That was literally, it was massive. Put a photo up here. Probably not the best photo, but it was a big black bruise, and it was around my eye, and it was there for ages, like ages, and it never, like with bruises, they normally go from like black to like green to like yellow, they go yucky until they disappear. No, this one was black, and this one stayed black for a very, very long time, and then I woke up one morning and it just disappeared. Mum was like, where did it go? I was like, I don't know, it just disappeared overnight. So we just left it at that. We didn't think much of it. And I was working at a coffee shop, and we had these big, heavy stools, and I had to use my legs to move them. But I was getting all these bruises on my legs, so I blamed it on that. But they were black too, like unusually black, but again, didn't take any notice of it. And then I started to retain, I felt like I was getting heavier, like bigger, as in like putting on weight. And so this is irrelevant because this bit, I had, well, I still have polycystic ovaries, which means whenever my period comes, I have these cysts that sit on my ovaries, and they fill up with blood before I get my period, and it's really, really painful. So they fill up, and then they will deflate, and that's when I'll get my period. So it got to the point where I was in so much pain, I couldn't go to school, I couldn't do normal life, so I went to a gynecologist and he recommended putting me on the pill just to see what would happen, to see whether it would subside the pain and make my periods more regular, because they were very, very irregular and very, very light. I'd only have my periods for like maybe 2-3 days max. So that's what I did. I went to the gynecologist, put me on the pill, and so I started the pill, and I thought they were side effects from the pill, but they weren't. But I'm getting to that. So yes, I got the black eye, I got the bruising all over my legs. I started to retain fluid in my legs as well, especially around my ankles. I couldn't fit into my shoes. My feet were so sore to walk on, and it looked like I was pregnant. Like, you know, when you see mums when they get pregnant and their like feet get really big. Yeah, that's hands down, that's what I look like. And by the end of 2016, I started to feel really ill. Not like vomit sick, but like just really tired, constantly tired and wanting to go to sleep, and like I wasn't my normal self. I was quite moody, and a bit agitated. Anyway, I didn't think anything of it. At this time, I had only done one cycle of the pill, so it was getting up to when my period was due. And when you get your period, when you're on the pill, you take these like, they're like sugar tablets. So from the day you get your period to the end day, you take sugar tablets. So I got my period and I started taking the sugar pills, and it got to the end and I still had my period, and I was like, that's weird, like, period should have stopped. By the way, it was super heavy, like the heaviest I've ever had it in my whole entire life, and it lasted the full 5 days. But then it continued, and it continued for about a week, and then about 2 weeks, and I was like, okay, this is very, very, very abnormal. And Mum's like, it's probably a side effect to the pill. We'll just leave it till after Christmas, because by now I'd finished my first term of year 12, and it was Christmas break, so school holidays in Sydney, Australia. And it was coming up to Christmas, coming up to New Year. It was so busy, couldn't get into doctors. Didn't think it was that serious to go to like a medical centre or anything. We just thought maybe the pill had like made my periods regular, but like really, really regular. Like, don't know, maybe it solved the polycystic ovaries. We didn't know, so we just put it on like the back bench and thought got bigger things to worry about, like Christmas presents and where we're eating, where we're food and ham and things like that. Anyway, it got to not Christmas Day, it got to Boxing Day, and we celebrate Boxing Day up on our family's farm, up in the Hunter Valley, and the whole family from Dad's side, we all gather to have Christmas Day again on Boxing Day, with my dad's mum and dad, so my grandparents. And that's when I really, really started to feel unwell. My legs were so much more swollen than what they were. I was so tired. I felt sick. Like, I'd gotten to the point where I was like, my stomach was like, ugh. Like I wanted to vomit, but I didn't want to vomit. So I was just nauseated. And that's when Mum was like, okay, well, we're going to make an appointment to go to the GP as soon as we get back. So before we left, Mum made an appointment, and the only appointment that they had was on the 29th of December. And that was the day we were due to leave to go to Queensland. So we were going up to Queensland for 2 weeks, and I was taking my best friend Whitney for a holiday. So we were due to fly out on the 29th in overnight time. So Mum booked the appointment early afternoon. So around, I think it might have been around 2 she booked it, and we were flying out around 6. So it was running it quite close. But yeah, so we went to the GP, and the GP was like, look, let's just give you a blood test because you've got these bruises on your legs, you've got, you look unwell, so just stop, he said, just stop the pill, get the blood test done and continue, go to Queensland, do what you normally do, don't change your plans for this. Luckily in his surgery he has, well, in his like GP office, doctor's thing, he has a place where you can go get a blood test. So we just went downstairs, we did a blood test. Hate needles, so it was like, but yeah, I went, got a blood test and just went to Queensland. Oh no, we didn't go to Queensland on the 29th. We went to Queensland on the 30th. We were supposed to go on the 29th, but our flight got delayed. So yes, we did end up going on the 30th. So we went up to Queensland, happy, I felt good, don't know what happened, I felt good. We went to Queensland, and we have like, my family has an apartment up in Queensland, so when we go up we go do a food shop. As soon as we get up we unpack and we go do a food shop, so we have food in the apartment. So that's where we were when Mum got a phone call from our GP, and he said, look, Zoe's blood results have come back, and she has a platelet count. So okay, some of you may know what platelets are, some of you may not, so I'm going to explain. Platelets are part of your blood, so you have your red blood cells, your white blood cells, and your platelets. Don't mind my nails, they're quite ratchet. So your platelets help you clot. So when you cut yourself, if you have a normal amount of platelets, your blood, it will stop you from bleeding out, dying. So it helps you clot. If you don't have a lot of platelets, you'll continue to bleed and bleed and bleed until, I don't know, get a transfusion or something happens. So yes, the doctor said Zoe has a platelet count of 4, which is very, 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 very low. And this is why I was bruising. This is why I was having my period constantly. This is why I kept bleeding and bleeding and bleeding. And he's like, Mum was like, well, we'll just get her to the hospital and we'll get her have a transfusion. And the GP was like, no, it's a bit more complicated than that. She has leukemia. Mum was like, leukemia, isn't that cancer? And he's like, yes, Zoe has acute lymphoblastic leukemia. You need to get her to the hospital as soon as possible, as she needs a transfusion, and we need to send her back to Sydney to start treatment ASAP, because she has a whole lot of cancer cells in her body, in her blood. So Mum comes up to me and she goes, just got your test results back. Just got your test results back. We need to take you to the hospital. And Mum, I was like, oh, what's wrong? Mum's like, oh, you've just got low platelets. I was like, oh, what the fuck is a platelet? I was like, what is a platelet? And Mum explained, and I was like, okay, that's not that bad. That explains a few things. And Mum's like, yep, 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 that's it. So she didn't tell me I had cancer then because she needed to process it herself. She told Dad, so he needed to process it. So I was like, okay, take me to the hospital. Hate needles, but yep, go ahead, give me a transfusion. Let me finish the rest of my holiday. So we went back to the apartment. I packed my bag because I knew I was going to be staying the night at the hospital. Just when you get a transfusion, you just need to be watched because you could run a temperature, you can have a reaction to the blood products. So yes, so we packed a bag, went to Gold Coast Hospital and got in. And normally when you're in emergency, we had to go to emergency. We were told to go to emergency. Well, my GP told us to go to emergency. And he had rung the emergency department and explained to them that I was coming in. I didn't know that. Mum knew that. But yeah, I didn't know that. And Whitney was with me, so Whitney didn't know that. So normally when you're in the emergency department, you have to wait around forever until your name get called. But no, we literally just walked in, walked up to the desk. Mum's like, it's Zoe Moore. And the lady was like, oh yes, we have a bed for her waiting. I was like, what? Service? So I walked in, got me on the bed. I was all happy. Whitney was all happy. Mum was a bit quiet. We didn't notice it though. Look back now and I'm like, oh yeah, she was totally holding onto a secret. So they got me on the bed and then they took me into a private room and I was like, oh, this is a bit fancy. I don't need a private room. And then this nurse came up to me and I remember so clearly, she sat down on my bed and she was like, do you know what leukemia is? And I'm like, yeah. And in my head I'm thinking, leukemia? I'm like, why? What's this got to do with me? And she's like, well, you have leukemia. And I was like, sorry? And she's like, you have cancer. You have acute lymphoblastic leukemia. That's why your platelets are so low. And I was like, no, that's not my blood results. Like, you've got it wrong. Like, I'm here for platelets. And she's like, yes, that's what I'm trying to tell you. Your platelets are so low. That's why your platelets are so low, is because you have cancer. You have leukemia. And first thing that popped into my head was like, oh my God, this is it. This is the end. Like, I'm done. Like, it's the worst feeling in the world. And like, some of you may know what that feeling feels like when you get told that you've got cancer. But others, you just have to think about, like, cancer is so stereotypically thought of as a death sentence. So like, you hear cancer, you think of death, because it happens so often that when someone gets cancer, they pass away. And that's what I thought of instantly when I heard it, that I had it. So I broke down. I was in tears. I was like, why me? What have I done in my life to deserve this? What point in my life had I done something that was so terribly wrong that the universe or God or whoever you believe in was like, yep, you get it because you've done that. But that's just the way I think, or I thought then. So I was a mess. I was a big mess. And I think possibly telling people a bit too early that I had cancer was a big mistake as well, because I never fully got to digest the fact that that's what had happened. So yeah, well, not good. But yes, that's what I got. So I stayed the night at the Sydney Children's, whoa, no. I stayed the night at, the Royal, no, what's it called? The Gold Coast, disorientated. The Gold Coast Hospital. I stayed at the Gold Coast Hospital overnight, and I got my platelet transfusion. And then while I was there, my parents were back at the unit with Whitney. Poor, I feel so bad for Whitney. She had to go through such a that was probably the worst thing for her to go through. And I definitely feel for her. Like, this has been hard for her. Not just me, it's been hard for everybody, especially my mum and dad, my family, but it's also been really hard for her. And like, I can't thank her enough I can't thank everybody enough for being there through my journey. So thank you. But yes, while my parents were back at the unit, they had to organise a flight back home the next day, which is what we did. I got discharged. Dad came and picked me up, and we flew back to Sydney. And the hospital there had been talking to the Sydney Children's Hospital, and that's where I was to go when I got home. So I came home, dropped our bags. I took my bag just in case. But yeah, Whitney's mum came and picked her up from our house. My grandparents came over and looked after my brother and sister while my dad and my mum took me to the Sydney Children's Hospital. And that's where I didn't get to meet my oncologist that day, but I got to meet, it's called a register or a fellow. So they look after a certain team. So I can't remember what colour team I was. I think I might have been red team, which was like blood disorders, leukemia, and there was another one. Can't remember. So yeah, I was in the red team. So we got to the Sydney Children's Hospital, and we went into the emergency department, and that's where we met the fellow or register, and she explained what was going to happen over the next week. So she explained to me, first of all, what leukemia was, and that it is a blood cancer. So it is made in your marrow, your bone marrow. So your blood's made in your bone marrow, and it affects your white cells, your white blood cells. I hope this is right. And it was in it was in my blood. So it's not like a tumour where you can cut it out and it's gone. Chuck it in the bin. It's in my entire body, every nook and cranny it was in. So it had to be treated immediately. So they wanted me to come back, to have a few days at home, come back, because we flew back on New Year's Eve. So when I got home, I spent New Year's in the emergency department. So that was fun. So yeah, I don't, that part, being at the Sydney Children's Hospital in the emergency department, I know it sounds all muffled, it is, because it is a distant memory, and I can visualize being there, but I can't put it into words, exactly what happened, because it was so surreal. But yes, so I got home and I was like, oh, what do I do? So my phone died, so I had to So what I was saying previously, Zolie.
Okay, yes, sir, I'll get it.
What I was saying previously was, yeah, so it was very surreal. So I got home and literally I was like, what am I going to do? What do I do now? Like, I need time to process. So I got all my group over. I told them that was so hard. I told my work friends. I had to spend time with family. It was just one big mess. We were trying to fit so much in so little time. But I'm going to end it here. So there's going to be a part 2 and probably a part 3, probably a part 4. This bit's super long. But yes, I hope you enjoyed my first video. It's probably not that great, but you know, if you liked it, please like, and if you want to see more videos like this, please subscribe. And I will see you next time. Bye. I don't know what to do at the end, but yeah. Bye. I'm probably not going to look like this in the next video. Just heads up. And this is Alfred Beans.